Doom v Vamos v Vamos Epicureans. This is the BCE Comics Pod one-shot edition. I'm your host, Nick Smith, and I'm joined by...
Stojr from Stojr Shelf. How's it going, Nick?
I'm doing well, particularly since we are participating in Kurtis Findlay's Epic Marvel Podcast Reading Club, and this one-shot is going to be our brief thoughts on today's issue, which is Uncanny X-Men number 171, Rogue. Walt Simonson is filling in as guest penciler, working with his, present or future wife, as the editor. I'm suddenly blanking on her first name, but I mentioned her at the...
Louise.
Louise, that's it.
And it must be future because she's Louise Jones here. She is the editor at this point.
Yes, and I don't know at what point they marry, but I know she doesn't change her last name until she starts writing things. So she stays as Louise Jones when she's editor, but then becomes Louise Simonson when they write. Anyway,
that's very clean. That helps with like credit and things like that. I was one name when I was editor, and when I'm a writer, different name. It works out.
Yeah. Except Jones is her former husband's last name, so I don't know how long she kept. I don't know the timeline of all that. All right, Storm has taken leadership of the Morlocks and gives orders to keep them in their place. Her new, darker tone is, of course, being noted by others. That tone is making it more difficult for her to accept Rogue as a new recruit to the X-Men when Rogue comes to Xavier and the school for their help, seemingly because Carol Danvers' personality in her is being absorbed and now she wants to do a little good. All right, Stojr, what are your thoughts?
Not a fan of the cover. I like the nostalgic, like welcome to the X-Men, hope you survive the experience stuff. But I don't know, the cover itself isn't doing it for me. I mean, it might be like the gates of the X-Men mansion here and the actual mansion itself kind of, being the framing of them running through. Maybe it's a little bit of like Walt's future style and current style. Feels like it's bumping up against each other here, like where when I see Colossus and his like legs drawn and his arms, I think of like future Walt Simonson. And when I see like the rest of this issue, like Storm on the first page, it feels like a little bit more like he's playing to the Marvel house style, as opposed to anything that is a little bit more exaggerated that we'll get later. So I don't bump into the art within the book, but like the cover's not my favorite. I mean, Walt has a legendary run on Thor, among other things. But his some of his X Factor stuff, I'm not the biggest fan of either. For me, it's like he's one of those artists where like it's very specific scenarios where I highly enjoy it, and there's other ones that I don't as much. Overall, I feel like Carol gets the shaft wherever she goes. I mean, this is the person that like has completely effed up her head. Like, they just showed her with her parents where she doesn't even have any like attachment to her own family. She comes home and Xavier's taking like the person that she, that did all this to her and just accepting her in. And I think that's maybe the right thing to do, but just circumstances at a minimum just really mess her up. The sword here that Illyana pulls out when the Belasco stuff doesn't really look like her soul sword from later on. And it brings up something I've been meaning to mention, that I'm surprised we haven't talked about the fact that Lilandra has a lightsaber.
Wait, is that in here?
It's not in this issue, other than the fact that this looks like a lightsaber. It doesn't look like her soul sword, but right. I keep forgetting to bring it up because anytime Lilandra's in battle, when she was fighting the Brood, she has a full-on lightsaber. Like not even like there's no differentiation. Like she just literally has a lightsaber for reasons, and I think they call it like a laser sword or something like that. In one of the issues. So we'll be able to look at it and talk about it again because I think she pulls it out in 175 when they're fighting there. But yeah, like this just looks like a lightsaber and doesn't look like her normal soul sword, which is, I think that evolves over time. Sure. And it just, if I didn't mention it now, I would forget to mention it later. So we got to talk about Lilandra and her lightsaber at some point in time. I think Carol punching Rogue through the roof of the building is pretty cool.
I
Like
thought it was
that all
funny.
makes sense. I mean, and she's all the way to like literally punched her to the moon, which is very, if you've watched old TV shows, that's very honeymooners there. Where they joke around about, pal right to the moon. Storm's reaction to things kind of wavers back and forth, like oddly to me. Like I'm a little confused at the end of the issue as to her point of view, right? So she tells Xavier no, and I think what it is on page 160 when she's when she's saying, "Behold our newest X-Man," that's sarcasm. That is, but it doesn't. I think, but it doesn't come off that way to me. But when
Which,
I like reread it, I think what she's doing is she's saying like, "Look at what Xavier's doing. Like, behold our newest X-Man," right? Like, it's not like her endorsing Xavier necessarily, because I think on like at the end on the last page, she's saying like Carol's right. I don't know if I could be here because of this decision, so on and so forth. So I guess I was a little confused as to like, is she towing the company line when Carol shows up and then she's telling her opinion again? Or is she like really questioning her place in the X-Men and she's like very much against this? And then we move on to the Wolverine miniseries after this. I don't know. That just felt like from a writing perspective, I was a little confused and almost like wish that there was some way to convey it. Like if you had some of these panels where she was like had more of a sarcastic tone, and there was some literary way to convey sarcasm, like if it was like in italics or something weird like that.
mhm.
I'm not aware of a literary way to convey sarcasm, but we should probably have one. Then maybe this would have read a little better to me. Anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is that interesting thing here that Rogue really did a number on Carol, who's been friends with the X-Men, and they're inviting her in because she needs help. And yes, that is the right thing to do. But boy, you could understand why all of them would have this reaction to them. And I think you're right in that what Storm is saying there is quasi sarcastic, because even on the final page, she's questioning, can she actually do this, right? Carol is right and you're right, Professor, so which is the better road to follow? Like all of you, that's a decision I must make for myself. And, we get a whole page of her just trying to sort her feelings out. So it is a weird thing. But I still like it. This is another one of those kind of downtime issues that has a lot of character development, which doesn't really fit well into the short summaries that I give for this sort of thing. You've already touched on a lot of what I was considering with Ileana summoning the sword for the first time. So where's that? Where's that going to go? That's interesting. Kitty. Kitty Pryde has been having a lot of temper tantrums lately. That seems to be happening in nearly every book, and I kind of wonder if that feeds into this growing, what I assume is going to be a subplot that we talked about in the previous episode, of is there something going on that is affecting the minds of people. Now, granted, Kitty's at an age where throwing temper tantrums is not unusual, right? She is a young teenager, so that's not so strange. That could just be her growing up, but it has been uncharacteristic for her until now. So again, I don't know if that feeds into this subplot of everybody's there's something wrong underneath the surface for just about everyone. I don't know. I thought it was fun seeing Walt Simonson doing the art, and I kind of get what you mean when we were talking about the cover. The cover feels a little cartoony, right? But still, interesting to see him here. We get some consistency with Viacek as the inker anyway, so that was fun, or fine. I did
You
think,
could see I pulled this down earlier, like Thor's, leg gauntlets there kind of
mhm,
look like the way Colossus is drawn. This is
I'll pull the cover
um,
back up.
this
Yeah.
is the Walt Simonson omnibus for Thor. So like that feels like distinct, very much his style,
Hmm.
right? Like that kind of look. But then, the rest of the book, like you'd almost be hard pressed to know it was him because it's like him conforming a little bit more to like the house style, very similar to Sienkiewicz, right? Like Sienkiewicz, like you're not seeing the sketchy style that we're going to get on Daredevil or the Demon Bear saga and things like that in these X-Men books, because he's still trying to do the Marvel House style at that point in time.
Yeah. And I was going to add, I'm glad you said something about the honeymooners when it came to that punch of Rogue, because it's spelled out for us, right? It says right there, pow, and then the very next panel, she's at the moon, right? So pow, right to the moon. I thought it was a silly slapstick moment that I thought was funny. The humor's added on now that, yes, this is clearly a reference to the honeymooners. So good catch there, Stojr.
That almost no one in current day is going to get.
Right, yeah. It's us old people that can vaguely remember those things from Nick at Night or other reruns in our youth, right?
Yeah. And as much as they joked around about spousal abuse in that line, there was none in that show. And not only that, the wife very clearly ran the show and would have knocked him out.
See, I don't really remember much of the honeymooners. I know I've seen an episode here or there, and of course everyone knew that line, one day, pow, right to the moon. But yeah, thank you for the clarification. All right, any other final thoughts there, Stojr?
Other than me now wanting to go back and watch old episodes of the honeymooners, because we don't get Nick and Night anymore. A show that was basically a play, right? It was like the camera never moved from their kitchen for the most part. So looking for now I want to go watch that afterwards. But no additional thoughts here. Looking forward to the Wolverine miniseries, which is what we cover next, which was not collected in this. So there was a big gap in that collection.
All right, well, once again, if you guys enjoyed our thoughts, follow us on YouTube. We are going to read, rate, and review a full big collected edition comic once a month, plus these daily one-shots. Thank you for watching and or listening, whatever the case may be. We'll see you guys next time.